All right, really quickly, I just want to review just 7 and 8, just to see if you got that. So what is the square root of 1? Well, don't overthink these all the time. It is very simply 1, right? Because 1 squared equals 1. 1 times 1 is 1, so the square root of 1 is just 1. What's the square root of 0? Well, same thing. It is 0. Why? Because 0 squared equals 0. Okay, so don't get tripped up on those. It's not a trick, but you do see those both quite often. So this is important because we have a big radical in the quadratic formula, and we're going to see that in just a second. So to review, we find the zeros of a quadratic, and when we find the zeros of a quadratic, we need to do a very long process. So this is what we've been working on all semester, is finding A, B, and C, using our diamond puzzle, writing the factored form, then use the zero product property. Those 4 steps, basically. That's what we've been working on up to now. But it turns out that this doesn't always work. Not all zeros can be found this way. For example, let's look at this quadratic here. So if I said find the zeros, just looking at the graph, well, I think most of us know, in fact, probably all of us know where to look. So we're looking at the x-axis. But here's the thing, we don't know. I don't know what x equals there. It's like negative, I know it's not negative, sorry. It's like 1, here's 1, here's 2. It's like almost 1.75. I don't know. Same thing with this one. I don't know. You can't always just factor. It's not always going to be a whole number. Sometimes your zeros are decimals. So what do you do when you have a decimal? How do you solve for that? You can't use diamond puzzles. All this has to do with perfect things like whole numbers. This doesn't have a whole number. So what do you do? Well, that is where you use the quadratic formula. So the answer to this, what are the zeros? I don't know. We don't always know. So that's what this formula is for. Okay, and this is a really fancy looking thing. And I got to tell you that as you see this more and more, and you're going to see it a whole bunch the whole rest of this year, and then definitely a bunch next year, and then definitely as a senior, and then probably in college as well. And then if you go to business school, you'll see it again. This is a really common formula. It's quintessential high school. Every high schooler across the country has to learn this formula. It's weird looking, and you are going to have to memorize it. But there's some tricks I have to that, and we're going to talk about that more later in the week. But for right now, we just want to see it, and I'm going to say it first. X equals negative a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That all over part's really important. That fraction bar needs to be over everything there. Okay. All right, so don't stress about the memorizing part first, but we are going to start by writing it. So literally what I want you to do is to write this, okay? And if you want to do it on a piece of paper and submit it, that's fine. When you write it, it's best just to make a really long bar. That way you have plenty of space to write all of this, because all of this needs to be underneath this radical bar as well. Then you make sure you put your division bar across everything, and then you write your 2a. So I want you to copy this. I want you to get practice just writing that formula first.